Quiet quitting. It's the buzzword that's been absolutely everywhere lately, right? It's sparked so much debate. So in this explainer, we're going to cut through all that noise and get to the bottom of why this one idea seems to be totally reshaping how we think about our jobs.
You've probably seen the headlines, maybe you've heard people talking about it at work, but for a phrase that's gotten so popular, there's still a ton of confusion. So what does it actually mean to quietly quit?
Okay, let's start by getting one thing straight right off the bat. The name itself is, well, kind of misleading because, spoiler alert, it has almost nothing to do with actually leaving your job.
So, here it is. In simple terms, quiet quitting just means doing the job you were hired to do during the hours you're paid to do it, and that's it. It's really about taking a conscious step back from that unspoken expectation that you'll always take on extra work, stay late for free, or be on call 24/7.
This is probably the most important thing to get. We've got to separate the myth from the reality here. Quiet quitting is not about slacking off or ignoring your responsibilities. It is about doing your job well, but also setting firm boundaries to protect your personal time. Think of it less as slacking and more as a shift away from that hustle culture mindset. It's about meeting expectations, not constantly exceeding them at your own expense.
So, the big question is why? Why has this become such a massive trend all of a sudden? Well, if you look at it from the employee's side, it's not about being lazy. It's actually seen as a pretty necessary reaction to the way modern workplaces are set up.
For a lot of people, this is a direct answer to that always-on feeling we get from our phones and laptops. The line between work and home has gotten so blurry, right? So quiet quitting is a way to draw that line back in the sand, to protect your mental health and to, just avoid burning out. It's basically a way of saying, hey, I'm a dedicated employee, but my well-being has to count for something too. And really, it's a huge signal to employers that something in the system just isn't working for people anymore.
But of course, there are two sides to every story. And from an employer's point of view, this whole trend is definitely raising some red flags when it comes to things like productivity and team culture.
If you're a manager, you're probably thinking that great teams run on people being flexible and willing to pitch in where needed. The worry is that if everyone just sticks to their exact job description and nothing more, teamwork could fall apart, deadlines might get missed, and that feeling of a shared mission, that cooperative spirit that makes a company culture strong, that could really start to fade.
This whole thing is way bigger than just an office debate. It's really a mirror reflecting a huge cultural shift. Quiet quitting is telling us a lot about what people, and especially younger generations, want from their careers today.
There is a major generational thing happening here. For past generations, success was often about climbing that corporate ladder, and that usually meant putting in crazy hours and being super loyal to one company. But today's workforce, they're putting a much bigger emphasis on things like work-life balance, mental health, and just general well-being. And sometimes, that stuff is way more important than a fancy title or a bigger paycheck.
And let's be real, this change in attitude isn't happening in a bubble. It's being driven by some serious real-world pressures. With the cost of living going up, housing being what it is, and jobs feeling less secure, that old promise that if you just go above and beyond, you'll be set for life, that just doesn't feel true for a lot of people anymore. So focusing on your own health and stability starts to feel less like a choice and more like a survival tactic.
So if we pull back the curtain on this trendy buzzword, what's really going on underneath? It's starting to look like quiet quitting is actually a symptom of much deeper, more fundamental problems inside our workplaces. Think about it. When people feel like their extra work is never noticed, or that they have no real chance to move up, or that their workload is just flat out unfair, well, it's only natural that they'd pull back. So maybe quiet quitting isn't the problem itself. Maybe it's the alarm bell telling us that the work environment is broken. And the good news here is that this gives companies a pretty clear path forward. Instead of fighting against quiet quitting, the really smart organizations are tackling the root causes head-on. They're communicating better, they're offering real flexibility, they're supporting mental health, and they're making sure workloads are actually manageable. That's how you get people to lean back in.
Which leaves us with the million-dollar question. Is quiet quitting just a passing phase, a problem for managers to solve? Or is this a permanent shift, a healthier, more sustainable redefinition of our relationship with our jobs for years to come? The answer to that is probably going to shape the future of work for all of us.